Hello, everybody. Welcome to Transcend Talks, where we interview our previous clients and learn insights from their graduate school and career experiences. And today we're very lucky to have a graduate of the IESE MBA program, Amy Huang, coming to us from London. Hello, Amy.
Thank you for having me.
Could you please introduce yourself briefly?
I'm from Taiwan originally, but I moved to the US when I was quite young. So my entire career was in the US. I spent about 7 years in financial institutions, both from the industry side and also as a consultant before I joined IESE MBA in 2021.
We worked on the MBA application about 4 years ago. At that time, you had been working in New York for several years. You had started your career in some of the large investment banks as a technology analyst. What do you think that early career stage gave you in terms of knowledge and skill development?
I would definitely say more like a soft skills rather than like a hard skill that I learned. I think as I reflect on the early career, I would say there are 3 things I would like to share with everybody. The first one is really speak up for yourself, whether it's about demonstrating your achievements at work or when you notice something they're not right or it can be improved. Don't be afraid to share your opinion and showcase your strength, but remember always to be humble at the same time. The second one would be build a relationship with the people and find a mentor who can give you guidance. The person can be your direct manager or it can be someone at work you really enjoy working with. And lastly, be curious and open to learn new things. If you identify gap in your knowledge that you have going to things that can make you do your job much better, make sure you fill the gap quickly by doing some learning on your own, like offline learning, talk to other people and learn from other people.
Those sound like valuable learnings, although I think it's interesting that you were a technology analyst solving IT problems, right? On the trading desk. It was really the soft skills that you developed. And I do recall you telling me that it was very, very intense, that problems had to be solved immediately. Do you think environment influenced you at all?
I think I definitely learned how to cope with my stress really well. It's more something like you learn and develop your own framework as you solve more problems on a daily basis.
And then you made a transition to the consulting industry to IT, digital transformation consulting. Maybe you could talk about that and how you made that transition and what was going on with your career then.
I spent 3 years in banking, improving different business processes in the bank, and I realized there's only this much I can do. So I was wondering if I can go to consulting and make a bigger impact. That's kind of what inspired me to make a transition and move into consulting. I think it was quite challenging in the beginning because consulting is extremely fast-paced, and also coming from banking was also highly stressful and fast-paced. I thought consulting was a different level. And then being a consultant, you have to start executing on day one. Even you're very new to the subject or to the client, you need to be able to just filter a large amount of information, data you receive from the client or from your peers, and identify what's most important. So it was probably the biggest challenge for me, just to understand how do I navigate a large amount of data given and be able to contribute and make an impact right away with limited experience.
Some people may view that as a dream job, working at a well-known consulting firm in New York.
Yeah.
After a while, you thought about going back to school and learning more and getting the MBA. Could you walk us through your thought process back then?
So my career was going pretty well. I actually just got promoted a few months before I started applying for MBA. That's also the point I realized I could probably continue this career for the rest of my life, but am I going to be happy? Probably not. So I was kind of eager to see what else is out there. I was also already working in New York, which was everybody's dream job, but I was not happy. And I felt that there like a lot more to see in this world, which like my job couldn't give me. So I knew also very clear from the beginning, I want to be in consulting, but I would like to switch to something more strategic focused rather than technology. So I thought MBA would be the next logical step for me.
And it was, and it's also interesting that having studied and worked in the US for many years, you had focused on European MBA programs. So maybe you could talk about that choice.
Because I did undergraduate and master degree in business school in the US. So I figured if I go back to MBA, that would be a similar experience. And on top of that, I felt like I was already working in New York, which was the dream city for all the MBA graduates. And I already have my network, so it might not make sense. But also, I felt like American business schools are very US centric, where they don't really talk much about outside of US. The classroom discussion, all your peers, they're probably American. So you're not going to have the fresh perspective, like what other people are thinking. So I thought like going to Europe will really broaden my horizon and just to have a chance to learn what other people are thinking in a different part of the world.
I can agree with that. I think the European MBA program would be more globally oriented. There would be more students from more countries. So I think that is definitely something you could count on with the European MBA. And very happy that you were successful in getting into IESE in Spain. So maybe you could share a little bit about your ESA experience with us.
I really enjoy every moment of it. It's known to be very rigorous in academic environment. So it was definitely very intense in the first year. But then once I got internship and everything, it was really fun. And then I think I really enjoyed the diversity part of the MBA. For example, in the first year, they put you in a team of 8 to 9 people. And then in my team, everybody was from different country in the world and also like different profession, like the people I never thought I would have a chance to meet. So every classroom discussion or every case prep with my team was a really cool experience just to understand for the simple same business problem we're trying to solve, how other people will solve it. So that was just a learning for me already. And also it was such an international experience that we got to do like different international module. For example, the second year, I went to Nairobi to do Africa module to learn how to do business in Africa. I really enjoyed that class. I think that was probably the best class of my MBA, where I learned how things work in a different continent. Because I think not a lot of people have like good impression like about Africa, this continent itself. People think it's kind of like underdeveloped. There are a lot of things that are behind, which is partially true, but there are also many things that are very advanced that we don't know about. So it was truly an eye-opening experience. Afterwards, we travel as a class to the national park to do a safari together. The entire experience was really interesting and truly broadened my horizon. And obviously, I make friends everywhere in the world now. Like everywhere I travel, I have someone to visit and also a couch to crush.
That's very helpful and comforting when you're traveling to have a guide waiting for you.
Exactly.
IESE is famous for their case study method, and I believe it's pretty academically intensive.
That's definitely true. So first year, I think Monday through Friday, we have 2 classes a day, and every class requires reading and prepping one case. So for each case, I usually have to do it in a team discussion with your classmates, your team members, and just to talk about how you're going to solve case. Obviously, the professor will give you some guidance. How do you lead that discussion with your team? Prepping for each case will probably take you 1 to 3 hours, depending on the person. For example, a typical day will start at 8 a.m. and then will end at your class around noon, but that the rest of your day, you have to focus on prepping for the case.
And I think the program is pretty well-rounded. They have strong recruiting and finance and consulting. Is there anything else you'd like to highlight about the program strengths?
I think IESE has quite a strong career center compared to other business schools that I considered at that time. But I would just say that it doesn't matter the resources that the school provided you, it's all about yourself. How much do you want to leverage them and how much do you want to use them and talk to people and really find the resources that really help you.
So would you say more than half of the students find their jobs through networking, kind of outside the official recruiting? On-campus recruiting?
I think just like any other business school, most people go to business school to go to consulting and investment banking. So for those 2 career paths, you do have to go through campus recruiting, like majority of the time. Maybe 8% of people find job opportunities through campus recruiting, and the rest of 40 might be personal network.
So we need to be aware of that for when we're looking at other industries. They're often not following the typical recruiting schedule, and we need to do a lot of the legwork ourselves. But you did go through the consulting recruiting, and maybe you can walk us through that process and how it worked for you starting with first year internship searching?
Consulting recruiting started really early in the beginning. The entire recruiting process starts in October 2021. That's almost like a month after I started my MBA. So I will give advice to people that if you want to do consulting, only stick to consulting. A lot of people are thinking I can also prefer consulting, also investment banking, other career at the same time. But trust me, it's not gonna work. Consulting prep requires just a lot of like prep itself, like going through the case interview process, doing some reflections on your own, kind of like what you do for MBA, understanding yourself, preparing for the behavior interviews, and also doing a lot of networking. And then, for example, in 2021, I did something through IESE I found extremely helpful was the London consulting track. I already identified that London is where I want to be after MBA, and consulting is also where I want to be. So I joined that track, went to London and visit all the major consulting firms with my peers, and also build a network with the alumni from IESE. Talk to them how it's like to be a consultant in London. So have a very strong case for myself, like why do I want to be in London? Why do I want to be in consulting? One regret I do have is I started consulting case prep kind of late. So in terms of the timeline, you're going to start applying for different consulting firms around end of November. In December, you will receive the interview invites. In January, that's when you start all the interview. I probably didn't start the case prep till December, which was super late. But then, so I was cracking up the cases within a month and then went through the interview process. I would encourage people, if you identify consulting is where you want to be, start your case prep even before the MBA. Like maybe start it in the summer before you join the MBA, and also start doing the networking early on, because by October and November, where everybody's doing the networking, alumni they're going to receive just way too many message, and they're not going to respond to you, and they will probably feel overwhelmed. You're not gonna get the resources you need. Overall, be early and make sure you're really clear with your goal if you want to become a consultant.
So I think pretty clear what you're saying is you have to go all in on that. And it's interesting that even though you had already been in the industry, you still did all that. So I think this can really highlight how competitive and time consuming it can be, that you still needed to go through all that in order to succeed in this job search. So I think everyone out there who's seriously considering that type of career change should listen carefully to what Amy's saying. But I'm very glad that you were able to make this big change to the consulting industry in London, which is where you are now, and you're working there now. Obviously, getting the job and doing the job are two different things. So now you have succeeded and achieved your goal of moving toward strategy consulting, away from technology consulting to strategy. As a consultant now, what do you think is the biggest challenge to doing well in this type of job?
I will say just being extremely organized and also know your priorities. That's something you will also learn from doing the MBA as well, just like setting your priorities, what's most important. Sometimes the days can be very overwhelming, like back-to-back meetings from day to night, and you don't really have time to do the work that you have to do. And also set the expectations with your team and what's possible, what's not possible. Also be humble. I think that's like most important learning from my career. Just be willing to learn from other peers, like even somebody who's below you, especially coming as an MBA consultant. I think MBA sometimes I have this pride that we know so much. We went to the best business school, like we are superior than other people. And I think that's a really wrong attitude. It's really important to be open. Even somebody's super junior, they might have a great idea that can share with you. And that's just be open and willing to learn. That's the most important thing that can help you to succeed in consulting career.
So I think that's a key word, being humble or having humility. I think we can now understand why a lot of MBA recommendation letters may touch on that. And I want to hear the manager explain why you are humble, which it's really just about you're open to learning, you're open to feedback. You're not a know-it-all. You know, you were working in the consulting industry pre-MBA and now post-MBA. So how do you think the MBA degree has helped you do better in this job?
One thing really hard to quantify is probably strategic thinking. Sometimes it really comes from the 2 years of training at MBA, also learning from peers, just about how to solve the problem differently. And I think prior to MBA, I was really focused on banking, a certain type of industry and certain problem I was trying to solve. It was a similar problem I was trying to solve on a day-to-day basis. It felt like my mindset or my way of solving problem was pretty limited in some way. But then after MBA, now when I look at the certain business problem, I try to take a step back, look at what exactly is the problem we're trying to solve. What's the goal we're trying to achieve? Like think about it from like a CEO perspective, because that's essentially what we did during MBA, right? Like looking at the problem, how would you solve it as a CEO, as a CFO, for example, in that very important position at the company. So I use the same way of training that I do at my current job, and then I found that extremely helpful.
Things can't always be quantified, but it seems pretty obvious that you feel it, right? I guess more confident in your ability to come up with the solutions to the problem, right? So I think that sounds like a strong endorsement of an MBA. I'm glad you're doing well, working in London, which is a pretty popular and competitive market. Is there anything else you want to tell us about London in terms of why you like living there, or for people who are interested in working there, something they may want to consider?
I think London is definitely a very cool city and super diverse. And then I think people here are truly from everywhere. Like coming from New York, I thought London will be exactly the same as New York, but here, like people are so willing to learn where you're from and also your background, especially at work. And then I think typically the work-life balance is pretty good here. I talk to my consulting friends from everywhere in the world frequently and try to understand how it's like somewhere else. And I think we definitely have the best work-life balance. People here are very respectful about your personal stuff. If you have something to do, you can always block your time and say, this is my personal time, please do not bother me, which I find it really amazing. And I think just being here, you have exposure to entire Euro market, which is really cool. You continue to learn diverse perspectives that can really help you in your long-term career building.
I'm glad you're enjoying it and doing well there. You mentioned before when you were talking about the consulting job search that it's necessary to do a lot of networking and doing reach outs on LinkedIn. It's not always going to work. And I know it might work when people reach out to you, right? You've told me that a lot of people reach out to you and you try to respond when you can and even do CV reviews and mock interviews sometimes. So, you probably are going above and beyond what some other alumni are doing, but maybe you can talk about what motivates you to help strangers or other alumni.
I think just because the amount of help I received during my career and also during the MBA application process, I was probably cold calling people to say, hey, can you help me? And I think a lot of time, if I can see someone coming to me, they're very sincere, they really want to learn, I'm always happy to help them. And I have always been very passionate in coaching my entire career because I do a lot of volunteering. And I think that's just tied to my core value to make an impact in my local community, also help other people. That's why I decided to coaching and then CV review for other people. And obviously also being an alum from IESE, that also gave me a chance to talk to future candidates who want to join the program or people who are interested in consulting or interested in London in general. I'm always happy to talk to them.
So nice of you to be generous with your time, and perhaps you're going to get even more requests now. Now, once the people get this, pay it forward, and you'll have good karma for that. And I know it's true, as we've helped some of our previous clients connect with Amy, and she was very generous talking to them. So thank you for that, and thank you for the time today.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.